Serena could win slams. Jessica has never won a slam. And welcome to another edition of the Best Three podcast. TH, we are here. One more before the Australian Open. We are here to kind of lay out our U.S. women's year in review, State of the Union. We've gone through the men. We've talked about the rest of the tour. Last but not least, let's give the ladies their shine.
Absolutely.
I'm excited about this one. How about yourself?
I am. We got to get the ladies a shine on. You know what I mean? And well deserved. Great year for them in general, let alone the U.S. women. Really feel good about what they were able to achieve this past year. Really had some, obviously we're going to get into it with all the various results, but I feel like it was not only a great year for women's tennis. I felt like as far as the quality of the matches and the quality, I felt like the ascent of some of the quote-unquote newcomers really made the field more competitive, all right up to the end of the year, WTA final. I mean, I feel like it had enough intrigue, enough, enough changes, changing the guard, changing leads. There was, 4 different Grand Slam champs. I mean, you just couldn't put your finger on who was the clear-cut favorite, which always makes for good TV, for good entertainment. But most importantly, Alvin, it was, I feel like the women's tour really, dare I say, outshone the men's tour this year in terms of how many different players you tuned in to watch and really wanted to pull for at any given time. And even from some players who weren't necessarily in that top 5 category, that you really were pulling for and had some great matches. It was just a great storyline the whole year. So yeah, I'm very excited about this episode as well.
Yeah, I'll echo that. Like, we obviously had 4 different Grand Slam champions on the women's side this year. Also to be marked and more, more relevant to this particular podcast, we had a U.S. woman in every Grand Slam final this year, picking up 2 wins. Obviously, Anisimova with her finals in both Wimbledon and U.S. Open. Coco Gauff winning the French Open. Madison Keys coming out of nowhere to win the Australian Open. Like, women's tennis on the American side is it's. I'm not going to say peak. We're not in the days of Celis or Serena or Capriati or Davenport. This isn't the 90s, but I think considering how global our game is, we're doing pretty damn well.
100%. Darn close, Alvin. I will say that. And especially if you look at the depth of the number of players that are pushing that top level. I mean, trust me. And I've coined this term with you and when we first started this, the post-GOAT era, which Serena was a big part of. I feel like the women's game has come out of that GOAT era and is starting to replace with their own GOATs in the making right now. And I feel like it's in a great place. A lot of inertia. The vacuum is now refilled with new talent, and we are just chock full of new players ready to make their mark on the game. And that only makes, iron sharpens iron, right? It only makes the top get even stronger. And then you really see, to me, how good they really are. If a top player stays at the top too long and the others aren't really pushing them, they get a little stale. They get a little, a little dull on the edge. And I feel when those other players, we'll get into it later, when they start getting pushed and don't know that they are the favorite, all of a sudden they got to train a little harder. They go through a little bit more nerves. You start really testing the metal. You only do that with high heat and there's been a lot of high heat in this year on the women's side of the ball, Alvin. So I'm really excited for next year, but obviously, as you said, let's give the ladies a shine on right now and let them have an opportunity to, to really kind of reflect on what was an incredible year.
Absolutely. So we'll start kind of top of the mountain here, and there's a lot of meat in the top 10 on the for the women, the U.S. women, which some of it will be a little bit of retread from our WTA year in review, but I want to make sure that we make sure we cover it here before we get into what I think we both believe is the more interesting story a little bit further down the rankings.
Sure.
So Coco Gauff finished the year ranked 3.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, I think any year you win a Grand Slam, put a
Good year.
checkbox next to it. That's a
That's a
good
pretty
year.
good year.
That's a good year. I don't know that we on paper we didn't really learn much about Coco this year. We saw kind of the same struggles, right?
Hmm.
Like when the
Hmm.
forehand goes off, she's in trouble. She's
Yep.
vulnerable. The serve is a work in progress as well.
Yep.
Um, but there are things that you can that she will bring every single day she comes to the tennis court, which is
Sure.
she's the best mover on tour, right?
Period.
And she fights like none other, and I think probably has highest the highest floor, maybe
Yeah.
behind Sabalenka, right?
Yep.
Of on her worst day,
Yep.
she's still semifinal at Grand Slam on her worst day.
Sure.
Hell, she can win a Grand Slam not playing
Sure.
quote unquote good tennis, which I think we've
Yep.
talked about. I say that in quotations for those of you not watching on YouTube. Um, good
Yeah.
tennis, like she is the embodiment of what you would consider to be winning ugly, but does it at an elite
Sure.
level. Move, make balls, never give in, bang on returns.
Yep.
Um, that is the Coco Gauff package, and I think it
Yep.
it travels well, and the
Yep.
results speak for themselves.
100% agree. I feel like obviously the Grand Slam was on the clay this year, which I thought was phenomenal. Um, I don't haven't tracked all of her results on clay, but I know this is probably her best year on clay to date, which to me is always a big thing, especially for American players. We have never, in general, been as adept on the clay on the terra, but too as others just haven't grown up on it, right? So it's something that's a little more foreign. So I was really impressed with her performance this year. Getting that win on clay, making yourself believe you can win on the clay was a big deal. Alvin, I made a comment to you that I told you struck me about Novak years ago about I kept looking at what he was doing wrong at the time without looking at how he was competing with the top and how much better he could still get if those things improved, right?
Mhm.
And I would put this squarely, same comparison on Coco Gauff. You are so right, and yet, what if those two things could be improved substantially? How much better could Coco Gauff get? It's scary to think because she's winning grand slams with a serve that's still a work in progress and still averaging. I think at one point she was averaging double digit double faults in a match. Imagine if she starts to hold serve consistently and convincingly. Alvin, we got a player on our hands. And imagine if that forehand goes from being the shot that you attack to the shot that exposes and can finish you. You already know she can move well. You already know the backhand's solid. You already know she can volley. You already know she's a pretty good doubles player. There is a strong chance that Coco Gauff, if she got some of those things sorted out, really got her confidence in those two things down, there is a strong chance Coco could come out next year and win two or three easily. Not easily in the sense of easily done, but it's well within the realm of possibility because of her game style, because of it traveling so well. And if those two glaring, I would say, weaknesses were to be fixed, patched, improved, shored up, whatever word you want to call it, Alvin, she has that much left to go. So I'm really looking for, I was impressed with this past year. And this was the work in progress year where she's finally starting to address some of these things. Imagine her next year. Wow. I mean, it'll be something to see.
Yeah, I'm less bullish on what she could become because I think at this point she's been on tour for about 4 years. I mean, just think about how much she's accomplished in 4 years with
Yeah.
the package that she has and has made incremental improvements as a professional tennis player as she's continued to grow. You
Yep.
got to remember she's only 21 years old, right? So
That's
even from
devastating.
a physical peak standpoint, she's still probably 3 4 years away from just her physical peak maturing and strengthening as a player. You look at someone like Amanda Anisimova. Amanda's 3 years older than Coco and is just starting to kind of put it all together.
Sure.
But I'm
Arena's how old? 26,
I think
27?
she's 26. Yeah, I don't have her in front of me. I think
Right.
she's 26 or 20.
Right.
Or, I think she might be 28. Jesus.
Yeah.
But
I thought
and that's
27.
that's kind of my point. Like you talked about game styles and you talked about her proficiency on clay. Like she between Madrid, Rome and Roland Garros, she went what as 5-5, 17-2
Yep.
in about 4 weeks there on clay. Like
Yep.
she
Yeah.
was signaling like by finaling back-to-back Madrid and Rome, which are very different, very different surfaces of clay, very different atmospheres, right? We're talking about a difference in elevation here. Like things are different in those two clay court tournaments. The only similarity is the level of players and
Right.
the the surface kind of it's clay. Yeah, they're both the same. But then for her to show up and final back-to-back 1000s there, like and then come into Roland Garros, it's like she was signaling I'm ready to do this,
Right.
and then got it done. That final match against Arena was one for the ages for a lot of different reasons.
Yep.
But um, yeah, I think 17-2 on clay over the course of 4 weeks is that does it. That says you're pretty good at this. But I think when you talk about game styles though, like I think her success on clay, and remember she final French Open before and lost to Iga. Um, I think her success on clay is a function of her game style. Like that
Her
is
game
where she's
style,
most
her movement.
comfortable.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean every player, everyone would wish they had no weaknesses, right? If we could
No,
all have
for
everything
sure.
everything
For
screaming
sure.
at a
Which
8
is
or
a myth,
9.
right?
Right,
Which is a myth.
exactly. So
Yeah.
if you it's about I think it's about what you can do with your like in spite of your weaknesses and how
I
well
agree.
you can defend those. And she does a really good job with that on clay. The results then bear out.
Yeah.
Wins Grand Slam, finishes three in the world, one of the higher earners on tour. She's an icon off the court. Like check, check, check. She could do this year. She could have this year, 2 out of every 3 years, so the next 6 years, and I think that's a Hall
Right.
of Fame career
And,
worth
and
like
she's
work.
and she's already, yeah, she's gold status herself. I don't disagree. I'm just saying, of any of the players that I look at that could improve substantially,
Mm,
she's one.
that's fair.
And I know we're going to give other players their time, but when I look at a player that could still get better, I don't mean better conditioned, getting their legs under them, get healthy, which is a lot. I'm talking about a player that could substantially improve parts of their game that
Hmm.
would indirectly not just affect their results, but also affect bad matchups, affect them on different surfaces better, affect them going deeper into some runs. And quite frankly, Alvin, having the ability to win more than one way, right? My issue with a
Mm,
lot of the better movers, they tend to have a very short shelf life because you're always dependent on you're moving. I mean, you go back to, I mean, any player that was a speedster around the court from the olden days of Tracy Austin, who was, you know, just floating around the court, hitting moon balls and just being an absolute menace to some of the better, older, more seasoned players. To to I'm trying to think of a good '90s version. Arancha Sanchez Vicario, right? It comes to mind. I mean, players that just played incredible, but they based a lot of it off of their wheels. You come into an era at some point you'd like for Coco to win off of something other than her movement. And so all I'm getting at is not only will it lengthen her career, not only would it help her win a few more in a calendar year, I also feel like she's unlike the others, her game, you said her body is just now getting physical maturity. I don't think her game is 100% mature yet either. And that's my only point. How much better could she get? I think quite a bit. And the tour's improving. Let's make sure we don't forget that point. No one's no one's staying static here. Everything is getting a little bit better. And so for her improvement to continue amidst that dynamic of everyone getting better, I think she has the most to improve with. Serving four in a pretty big parts of your game, Alvin. There's not like she can
yeah,
get her
yeah,
backhand drop shot volley a little better. No, no, no. We're talking about major pieces that you hit every shot, every point, give or take. So that's why I said, again, I don't want to continue to wax poetic on Coco. I'm a big fan, of course, always have been a big critic of some of those weaknesses not getting addressed up until this point in time, but have always known what I've seen. I know the family well. I've known her since she was a little girl. She has continued to impress and amaze me, and I saw it coming. So I trust me, I'm a huge fan. I just really look forward to seeing her take those pieces on, get that behind her, and really start to get her full game and package, established. And I would love to watch the complete Coco Gauff, play without a few things to defend. So without a
yeah.
wing to defend, so to speak, and a serve to win in spite of.
That's fair. That's fair. All right, let's keep moving here. Down the list a little bit. Amanda Anisimova. you could, without winning a Grand Slam this year, you could say she's what, maybe the comeback player of the year,
Mm,
or
of the
so maybe
decade.
the people's player of the year,
Yeah,
whatever it might
sure.
be. But coming back from what she's been through to showing glimpses earlier in this year. What did she win? Qatar, in back in February of last year.
Yep.
Last year, yes, it's January into 26 now, so February of last year. Um, Oh, that turned a lot of heads, and people
Yep.
went, "Huh, Amanda Anisimova, like, she's
Right.
back at that
She's playing again.
2020."
Right.
She's playing again, right, right? And this
Yeah.
is like, she
Yeah.
kinda the way she started the year, she's like, "Okay, I'm back. I'm gonna be a full-time tennis player this year." Loses to Anna Raducanu in the second round of the Australian Open, and then the very next tournament wins 1,000. Um,
Yeah.
so, like, it was a, and then kind of went into a bit of a dry spell after that, but then started to get it together. Probably French Roland Garros is when I think
Yeah.
the is when she not necessarily caught fire, but it started to look like herself, right?
Yep.
Got a
Yep.
couple good wins there, lost to Arena in a very, it was one of those matches where, yeah, I'm gonna call it respectable, but like she was right there, and it just looked like she was just not quite match sharp enough yet to get
For
over the
Arena.
hump for Arena. Like in a
Right.
match like that, like we're second week here, ish, round of 16. Um, Arena was ready. Amanda was just a little bit not ready, but
Right.
made Arena work for it. And
Right.
that's like
Right.
one of the signals that you like to see. And then obviously her summer was pretty well defined with the Wimbledon run, the US Open run.
Mm.
Uh she's even went to China and won the 1,000 there. So
Yep.
and then obviously had a fantastic year in finals, losing again to Arena in the semis there, beating Iga um, as well in route. It's interesting at age 24, and I'm going to come back to another player a little bit later. That reminds that I feel very strongly about players with pedigree,
Okay.
because pedigree tells me something.
Okay.
And we see, especially with our U.S. players, who we get to, you and I get to see a lot. Both in the from juniors, some of them might touch college before going pro, but I think there's something special about knowing how to win
Mm.
at a high level against your cohort from an early age on. Like if you
Okay.
show me someone who wins in 14s and they can also win in 18s, like win junior US hard courts and then do well at Orange Bowl as well. Like those are
Yep.
things that I'm like, okay, this person might be able to figure out. If you win girls 18s like clays, but like you lose in the second or third round of Orange Bowl, I'm kind of like, whatever. I've seen this story before, right? There's lots of players like that every single year. But when you are a 15-year-old winning 18s hard courts, or you are a 16-year-old and you're getting, semifinals at Orange Bowl, it's like, okay, now this is something I pay attention to. Amanda Anisimova, when you go back about 7 years, she was that girl at that
Yep.
time.
Yep.
And a lot of signaling early on when she first went into the pro tour. Um, Obviously tragically lost her father,
Sure.
took some time away from tour, comes back. We need to kind of retread that story. But and now you feel like you're getting the same version of Amanda Anisimova that we had in juniors and also started to show earlier in her career. Like it's
Yep.
not just the way she plays tennis.
Right.
It's the way that she carries herself, which makes me feel like she expects to be here.
Oh, for
When
sure.
she looks at these other women, these Igas and Arenas and Cocos and whatnot, she's like, no, no, no. I expect to not
That's
only be
right.
competitive, I expect to beat them. I expect to be right where
She's
I am right now.
she's cut from the same cloth. I agree with you
Right.
100%, and I agree with you in all those players, Arena on down, Ego on the way down. They are they're the top of the food chain, Alvin. And so to your point, I completely agree. I think I would give her the comeback player of the decade just because of the time that has spanned,
Sure.
because we knew she was there. And she did it in such fashion this year, to be honest, Alan, pretty quickly. When you cut your teeth on on a grand slam, right? That's getting a few matches in and kind of getting comfortable. When you then, you know, win a 1,000, that's getting confidence. That's really feeling like, man, I'm playing well right now. Not like I'm back, but like, of course I'm back, but I'm starting to take notice for all the rest of the players outside of, let's just say, the top 10, top 15, because, not everybody plays that 1,000 all the time. Then to do it at the Grand Slam level and to get to the finals, now you're knocking on the door of top five, right? She had a stubbed toe, obviously, in that Wimbledon final, and played some phenomenal tennis until then, right? That semi was incredible. I mean, was probably the best
Mm-hmm.
life of that up until that point in time, right? And of course, a little flat, a little, you called it, a little, maybe a little bit starstruck for the moment, right? I don't think any of us saw 0-0 coming, but I think she saw. I think a lot of us said, man, it's going to be a big thing for her. And I was probably a little more like, nah, she'll just match up well against Iga. And while I was correct, a slam later, I wasn't correct
Right.
at that
Yeah.
tournament. Right? And obviously it was a tough one to get through. I loved how she responded. Alvin, you lose 0-0 in any match on the pro tour. You feel naked out there. You feel like, whoa, I just got my butt kicked. There's nothing to talk about. She did it in a final on a international stage
Mm-hmm.
with 100 cameras. You know what I mean? And every country in the world saw that bubble up. And now here's the point: and amidst tears, and amidst embarrassment, and amidst a little bit of hurt, she gathered herself enough to not only appreciate what she had done to get there, appreciate and have the understanding. I've been through worse than this, right, in my life.
Right.
This is just a bad match. That told me her mental toughness was there. She put it in perspective already. She gave Iga her props for the butt whooping, and then she promised herself in the crowd, "I will be back. I will be better than this." And a tournament later, Alvin, we saw it. So I'm telling you, I learned as much about her through that adversity as I learned about her wins and her ascent back to the top. And so, Alvin, I was very, very impressed. And so that told me that her mental fortitude is there. And so she's going to be bad loss, good win, doesn't matter. She's taking it all in stride. She's taking it as it comes. This is tennis. And while I'm good at it, I really enjoy it, want to be competitive. I'm not putting this out of, it's not going to get bigger than me. And I'm grounded with my team, with my family. I know who I am. And you know what? I'm just going to come out here and compete, and that's all I'm going to do. And for her to get healthy and her to continue to move on, this next year could be another good year for her, to the point where I don't think that was a flash in the pan year at all. I see her being back and being ready to do the same thing next year.
Yeah, I agree. And like one of the things that you like to see with a player is the ability to like obviously you want to see a player who can learn within a match, right? But then
Right.
you want to see players who can learn with between matches, right? Between matches,
Sure.
between tournaments. Like you want to see players making the adjustments, whether it's them or their coaching team, the whole deal. And one of
Sure.
the interesting things about Amanda is like because she was away from the tour for a while being like if that's a year and a half and or 2 years of women's tennis, like the faces are all different, right?
Right.
She when
Right.
she played Iga at Wimbledon, she had not played Iga on the pro tour ever. Like
Right.
when you think about that, and then
Right.
come down to the end of the year, they played 3 times, right?
Right.
And that's like it happens fast when you
Yep.
get into that when you're starting to get into the back end of these tournaments, quarterfinals and beyond and grand slams, where we never really know who's going to win them, but we
Right.
do get a lot of the same characters in the last 8 of these events, and I think that's
Yep.
one of the most attractive things about the women's game right now is there's enough intrigue, but you still have a lot of familiar faces.
Right.
And that's my point about her learning. Like she loses to Arena at French Open, beats her next slam.
Yep.
In the very next round, loses to Iga, beats her at the next slam.
Yep.
Right? And then beats Iga again in Riyadh. So but she beat all of the Grand Slam champions this year
Right.
at some point in the last half of the year. She beat
Yep.
she beats Madison in Riyadh. She beat Iga in Riyadh. She
Yep.
she beat Arena in Wimbledon, obviously. And then she also beat Coco in China. So and beat her
Right.
pretty handily too. So she's there. Like
Yep.
obviously she's there. It's a matter of and I think we're trending that way because her team looks really solid.
Yep.
Like, can she just one physically hold up throughout the entire
Sure.
season,
Yep.
right? I don't. She didn't really. She schedules pretty smartly. She doesn't overplay.
Right.
I would like to see a little bit of norming out of results, which I think will come. So,
I bet.
last year she didn't like outside of the two Masters 1000s that she won, she didn't get past the round of 16. in any other ones. So it's like that's the kind of like we want to see her consistently do a little better.
But
And I
that's
think
also low hanging fruit too, Alvin, for next year,
true.
right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
let's say she doesn't get the two finals in the on the last two, right? That's points to pick up. That's there's norming out of the year. Clearly, I don't see her going out early in the Australian. You know what I mean? She's gonna be one of the players to beat going in. So I say it to say, if you told me she had four straight finals to defend this next year, it'd be tough to say she's only going to get better, numerically, because that's pretty solid right there, right? She didn't do well at the other two, you know what I mean? And let's face it, didn't play a great final in Wemby. So I say that to say she will get better this year, Alvin, numerically and physically, and her tennis will back up those other terms. That part I'm not worried about at all. I'm sure you're not either. I'm just really excited to see. Tennis is excited to see her back and to see her healthy. And she has been a very, very pleasant, um, you know, I'm going to say surprise slash return, because I feel she's all we those of us who know and knew how good she was before. I spoke to her about before when we first started this podcast about a year ago at some change about she was one of the players I was most excited to see. And
Yeah, you called it.
I
You
referenced
called
her
it.
backhand, I referenced her back. I just remember her, and I was like, man, a girl like her, man. And then when she kind of piqued the interest by winning guitar, I'm like, you know what? Don't sleep on her. Don't sleep on my girl, man. And because I just knew how good she was, so it was only going to be a matter of her getting better, and really, and so she, far exceed what I thought she could have done this year, this quickly, and she's very, very quickly got back to form and kind of put her stamp on the year. So very excited for her next year. She's a great, just a good fresh face and a beautiful game. I mean, just make the problem with all these great players, they make it look so darn easy. They make hitting the ball look so easy. Like, that's all you got to do. Just do this
Just
and
do it like this.
just go like this, and you're like, yeah. It's not that easy. I don't care how easy you make it look. It is not that easy. So,
Another player, like just I'll kind of bounce away from U.S. women, but Amanda Anisimova's year this year was very similar to Jasmine Paolini's year last year, right in
last year, sure.
2024. You, you pop two slam finals, and then
Yeah,
you're top five in the world, and it's like,
yeah,
okay, how do you bounce back from that? But it, you can do it. Jasmine finished the year, I think, ranked 8,
yeah,
and or maybe somewhere around there, and didn't make another Grand Slam final, but she did win a 1,000, and she
yeah,
showed the level. If
sure.
you finish 4 one year and 8 the next year, you're kind of
Yep,
in that space, like you're showing that this is my level.
right,
I think the difference between the two, and I'm going to echo what you said here, is that we believe Amanda's level, her highest level, her ceiling is higher than Jasmine's.
for sure.
So yeah, maybe she doesn't make 2 slam finals, but what if she wins one?
Yeah,
Damn, she could win one. She probably should win one.
yep,
Um, yeah, I'll leave it at that. Let's
yep,
move along. Good old JPEG. Good old JPEG. JPEG finishes JPEG finishes the year ranked 6,
yep,
and that's considering she semifinal of the U.S. Open, great result. First
yep,
round Wimbledon loss, not so great. Round of 16 at Roland Garros and round of 32 at Australian Open. That's a pros year. Like,
mhm,
I didn't do so great. Where I didn't. A first round loss in a slam is not what you want as a top 10 player, right? But it
ever.
happens.
Yep,
You counterbalance that with a semifinal run. That is good. Yeah, maybe she would like to get one more round against, at Roland Garros. I think she might have lost to Boisson at
yep,
at RG. I think that was her. That might have been her
yep,
loss there.
yep. Who was
Okay,
on
you
fire?
take maybe. Yeah, exactly. Right, right,
Yeah,
right. So I mean,
I
but you
mean,
take that one out, and that's a pretty good year. That's a pretty good year,
right,
and that's what we come to expect
right.
with Jessica. It's like
Didn't
the
didn't
the
JPEG
highs are
get
never that
to
high.
the right? I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
No, 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 I think you were asking, did she make the finals of U.S. Open the
The
year before? Is that what
U.S.
you're gonna
year
ask?
before, right? Wasn't it
Yes,
final
yeah,
U.S. Open 03, 23?
yeah. 2024 U.S.
Four.
Open
Sorry,
final. Yeah,
2024. Sorry, I got my these years. January
we're
always
barely
throws
in
me off.
26.
Right. The the consensus was, for me at least at that point in time, this was a career tournament in the making, right? Um, I don't know if and I'm sure I'm not alone, I don't know if JPEG's ever the clear-cut favorite to win a Grand Slam, especially with the current group of players. So for her to get to the final is some very heavy lifting, right? I was extremely proud of her for because she has always been that little engine that could, that, don't think I can get there. I'll show you, and that's always been something that she's
Uh-huh.
very quietly wore on her sleeve. And so to me, I'm to the point now, like, keep doubting her. You know what I mean? Keep doubting her, right? And she will continue to show you because that's the fuel that fires her up. Not a great year coming off of a final, and quite frankly, pretty close to a banner year for her. And I feel like her team is that it's in place right now could really help her to level out this next year coming in. And I think Jessica, who's always played on her own terms, could have another good year this year. Looking back at our whole thing now as a review, um, it if this was her quote unquote regular or normal year, and she still had some pretty good results, couple of stubs of the toe and some of those tournaments, I would tell you, Alvin, that those kind of years will fire up a Jessica Pegula who knows she can do better, and she's all about being a competitor. And so to me, I teetering a little bit of the next year, I see this year actually fueling her to get better for next year. And like I said earlier about Amanda, there's 2 or 3 tournaments in there that she could have done a lot better. And so I actually like that for her, not only numerically and points wise, but I also like it from the standpoint of what would that do for her confidence going into 2, 3, a months of tournaments going in. Again, she's one of those players that's still pushing to get to the top. And if she can have the confidence behind doing so, but JPEG is very relevant and very committed and very good. And so coming off of a normal, if you would, year, not a banner year, I think this year is actually going to help her next year more so than anything else because she's getting close to another year or two, she might be calling it a day, right? So this, to me, that even speaks more to her urgency, right, of next year's play. And this year will have a lot to do with that.
So let's change the word from urgency to some other word that I can't really come up with right
Fair,
now
fair,
because
fair.
at age 31,
Yep,
right? She's 31.
yep,
I'll give you that one stat right there.
yep.
Boom, 31.
And you still don't want to
Just
use the word urgency.
no, it's not urgency. I'm probably as I lay this out, I'm probably going to end up getting to the word. So let's just see where we go. The Jessica Pegula we know now, right? The top 10 player. So like she entered the top 20 in 2021, right?
Right,
And that would have been at age 26, 27,
right,
something like
right.
that. Yeah, right. So okay, so in 2022 she finished the year ranked 3.
Mhm.
2023 she finished the year ranked 5.
Yep,
24, 7,
yep,
25, 6, right? So she's
yep,
been 3 through 7 for the last 4 years.
yep, yep,
4
yep,
years, right?
yep.
Right? She's right. This is, in my opinion, this is her level,
Sure.
right? She is does not necessarily, she has not shown, I'm gonna say she has not shown the ability to win a slam, but you can't win a slam unless you make the finals. She's made the finals. She's done that, right? She's gotten to the semis. She's done that. Um, Do I think she can win one? I mean, sure. If she's going to show up to the semifinals, then, yeah, then maybe she can win one. But the grand thing is, she's done it at the same tournament, which makes me feel like it's the U.S. Open. Makes me feel like she gets a little bit of that U.S. push. Um, and the last slam of the year, I am a little more concerned that we've seen the best of Jessica
Mm,
Pegula and that
mhm.
the drop is coming.
Okay.
It might not be, I don't think it's gonna drop off to, like, we're never gonna see Jessica Pegula actively playing tennis and being ranked outside the top 50 because she's gonna quit. She's gonna retire before that happens.
Oh,
I
for sure.
feel like I feel like we drop out of the top 10 this year. I think this is the year.
I want to push back on one comment. Not the Jessica Pegula is too good a competitor and a tennis player to be outside the top 50. That's number one.
That's what I'm
Number
saying.
two,
Like, a her
But
ranking might show outside top 50, but that's not because her levels dropped. It's because she's not
100%.
playing anymore.
She would have
Yeah,
been hurt for 9 months. I want to push back on that. That's number one. I wear my JPEG flag all early and often.
yeah, you
Number
do.
two, number two, Jessica has never needed to play tennis, so we understand that part free and clear, right? And the fact that she's still
Understood.
out there, numerous surgeries, everything else, is always been about because I can and because I am that much of a competitor. So you got to put those two into your mindset of why am I even still playing? Because I believe I can still be competitive. And I think that's where I'm going with this. My comment back to you, Alvin. I feel while it's numerically possible, always, and unfortunately, 31, and injuries from too, and unfortunately, that's always a possibility. The older you get, the more likely it's going to happen. Not if, but when. I feel she could return to a slam final this next year. And I also would tell you the reason I use the word urgency is I believe Jessica also believes she can, but doesn't know how much longer she'll be able to cheat mother time in the rest in her pursuit. And me knowing her, if I can't get to the final of a slam again like I did back in 24, and I'm going to be a perennial semifinalist, and I kind of know deep down, okay, that's about as good as I can get. I will probably push back because at that point, I'm not getting any better. And it's not about money for her. It's about, am I getting better? Am I improving? On a side note, I see no one better to be the voice of the women's tour president, so to speak, but then other than Jessica Pegula, by the way. And so I hope she
Sure.
takes a very vocal role, a very visible role with the WTA tour at whatever point in time when she is done, because I think she speaks to a lot of things, let alone at the least of which is her professional tennis career. And I feel like there will be a lot of open doors for her post tense. So I feel this is a year where she
Yeah.
feels she will want to do something simply because of this, because there's a lot of opportunities for Jessica post this. And I only say I'm saying urgency because I think she will bail before that ever happens. She said as much. She's not going to be out there like Serena, she mentioned in an article, playing till she's 37, 38. And mind you, Serena did it because she still could. She still felt like she
Well,
could
yeah.
be relevant. I don't think Jessica thinks she has those level of genes and that level of physical dominance to continue even a step slow. Serena, a step slow, was still 2 or 3 in the world at 36, and was still winning slams, at 35. There was no question the woman could she so it helped you understand how good she was at 25. You know what I mean? I don't think Jessica
But
is blessed with those same
that's
genes.
the difference though. Like I agree with you. I think we're saying the same things. I'm just
Yeah,
saying because we've already seen her high end level.
sure.
We've already seen her peak. Like
And
that.
you might be
So the
correct.
difference is Serena could win slams. Jessica has never won a slam. I
The
mean,
the bar
I
here, the bar here is
I was just
returning
gonna
to a
say
fight.
the
Yeah, that's all.
yeah, but I would say I'm just gonna go ahead and say the final was the outlier. Like the semifinal was an outlier. She
Oh,
semifinaled the U.S. Open this year. She finaled the U.S. Open the year prior. Let's remember she had never made it past the quarterfinals before that, right? And outside of those two, she also hasn't done it since then. Like you take the other 6 slams in the last 2 years, right? She had got past round of 16. What I'm saying is no shade against. I'm here for the consistency of Jessica Pegula. I agree
yeah,
with you with everything you said about what she like her position in this game, in this sport,
yeah,
and what she will do after. I mean, she can do whatever she wants to do after. I think it would be great if she stayed in tennis um, to remain a voice in the sport because she has so many other options. It would be better. It would be best for us. We would all benefit from it.
right.
But what I'm saying is, if you take out those 2 slams, and not that you can take out the 2 slams, when we talk about the consistency that is Jessica Pegula, she's actually been less consistent the last 2 years.
Mm,
The year in ranking that she has achieved and making it to Riyadh has been propped up by the fact that she's done well at the U.S. Open in the last 2 years and done poorly at the rest of the slams by her own standards that she set. Right, missed the Roland
sure.
Garros in 24. She has 2 second round losses, 1 first round loss. That's four of the other 6 slams we're talking about here. So like, if you just look at the numbers, I'm saying Well, I mean, we're not trending towards anything. We're
Yeah.
looking we're looking like the best is behind us. Okay, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna
Yep.
stop
I,
because
I, I hear you.
JPEG does not bring us together. She divides us. She is divisive. But I will say one
the
player that does bring us together, I think, is Madison Keys. How about that?
Madison Keys, and that's fair enough. And I want to say one last comment on my girl JPEG. I
Oh,
always see the cup half full. I don't care if my
fair.
cohort sees it half empty. JPEG all day. Wearing my, I got my JP on the chest. I wear it strong. I wear it proud. Madison, I feel
Look. I think Jessica would
yeah.
respect me for judging her purely as a tennis player.
I hear you.
You could take the name away, and I just look at the results, and I
Yeah,
go, "This is what I think.
yeah.
This is what I think." Okay.
And that's why the banter is good. To me, it's always about the player on the inside and the one that we see outside, and that's why it's a good juxtaposition between the two of us. Madison, God, I I hate selling any champion short. I hate thinking that a player should call it a day before they have decided to call it a day. I have to stop myself with that every time we get going in these Novak Djokovic conversations. So I'm going to try my best not to do that with Madison. Madison is a phenomenal tennis player, has been for a long time. Loved her career win, I'm going to say, with Australia last year. How she comes out this next year will be a very solid harbinger, and I say it with that connotation, that for the rest of her year and quite frankly for the rest of her career, however long she chooses to continue to play. I feel like there hasn't been a player of her height, her power, and her racket speed in a long, long time. The only thing that worries me, besides age, mother time, and so on, Alvin, I told you, you and I talked about this for years, even when I was on the other side of the net for me with the basket. It's foot speed and ball speed. At a
Hmm.
certain point, I actually think Madison's ball speed has improved, almost to the detriment in some ways. She's hitting a bigger serve. She's hitting a bigger forehand now than she was when she made the final against Sloan. What was that, back in 17? Right? So that's now 8 years ago. The foot speed, simply as good as it has improved, is going to just be slower just because of age. Now you add to that any other level of health, any other level of, of physical limitations and whatnot. She was never the swiftest, even at that point in time back in 17. I think she was probably
Hmm.
like back in 2014 or 20, whatever, but when she was young. So it's been on tour for, shoot, 12, 13 years, 14 years. Ball speed and foot speed is just an equation you have to get around. It's like the Pythagorean theorem. You just can't get away from it. It is what it is. And if you're going to the ball
Hmm.
that big, you have to be able to return the ball that big. And there are Amazonians, you know what I mean, like her height and size that are there now that are doing that at this level. And we've talked about all of them, from Marina to Rebecca to Amanda there are a lot of tall players that can bring it and return it with interest. And so I say that to say we're in a tough spot right now for Madison. I think she had a phenomenal year. So glad, so happy for her. She I like reflecting on her laurels more than I like looking forward to her um, to this next year, because I'm just not so sure that the ball speed and foot speed equation can be. There's not another way to look at it, and the rest of her 2025 bears that out. So, what say you?
Okay. We know, I think anyone listening to this podcast who has listened to this podcast over the last year or so knows where I sit when it comes to one Madison Keys. All right. I'm going to try to be partial here.
Yep,
And the same way I judge Jessica Pegula just by her tennis
yep.
results, I'm going to judge Madison Keys by her tennis results. Agree 110% of what you said about ball speed and foot speed. right? She has never been the most swift player, but I think because she can hit she can break glass in case of emergency from
Yeah.
5 feet behind the baseline and make up for that foot speed.
Yeah.
That's her special gift, right? So we can't, like I said, like we said with Coco, no one's perfect, right?
Yeah.
No one's perfect. This year in particular, Madison had a really good 3 weeks. Wins Auckland, wins Australian Open. Fantastic. That is can't take that away from her. That will go down as one of that Australian Open quarterfinal, semifinal, final run will go down as one of the best, like, 4, 5-day spans in my life as a tennis fan. I rode that roller coaster like nobody's business, and I
Yeah.
enjoyed it thoroughly. Madison Keys,
Yeah.
thank you for that memory as a sports fan.
Yep.
Um, here's a term that doesn't necessarily that usually get associated with Madison Keys. I'm gonna say Madison Keys is extremely consistent.
Mm.
I'm gonna say
Mm.
she's consistent.
Okay.
Why would I say she's consistent? Okay. This year, she finishes 7, right? That's fantastic. In the last 10 years, because Madison's been on tour forever, in the
Yeah.
last 10 years, only 2 times has Madison not finished top 20 in the year.
Well, that's solid.
2021, where she barely played anything, she
Right.
finished 56th in the year, right? Okay. 2024, she finished 21, all
Okay.
right?
Right.
21.
Yep.
She has been between 21 and 7 for 10 years.
Yeah. That's big.
Right? She
Big.
ain't winning a Grand Slam every single one of those years.
Right.
She's not finaling a Grand Slam every one of those. She's won 1 Grand Slam. She has finaled 1 Grand Slam in those 10 years, right?
Right.
A couple semis here and there, a couple quarterfinals sprinkle in and there. Like, she is every once in a while she shows you her high end.
Right.
And sometimes she'll flake out in the first round. But
Right.
what she will do is bring a level over the course of 12 months that will be good enough for her to be a top 20 tennis player.
Sure.
And that is exactly what she did this year. We
Yep.
got a little pop at the Australian Open and quarterfinal Roland Garros as well. Great year.
Yep.
Could she not win a Grand Slam next year? Absolutely. Like, will she probably go round 16
Right.
at another 2? Probably. And we'll
Yep.
be right back at Madison Keys territory because I think she has 2 things that, like, someone like a Coco Gauff cannot rely on is serve,
Yep.
forehand.
Forehand.
That'll write
Yep.
you checks for a while, right?
100%.
So,
Her level of serving
so
forehand.
when Right, exactly. And so
Yeah.
when it comes to Madison, it's like she's gonna do I think Madison can perform at a top 20 level as long as Madison wants to play
Yep.
tennis,
Yep.
which I think, she just got married. She's had her banner year as a professional. She got the Grand Slam. Like, everything else is kind of like is gravy. And if she finds herself getting injured, like she was injured the back half of last year,
Yeah.
if
Yep.
I think Australian Open this year will be very telling for what we get from Madison for the next 18 months. If she hasn't fully recovered, or if that spark isn't there, like she's had her first off season
Right.
as a married woman at home doing that thing, like going back on the road, if it doesn't if it's like, this doesn't feel the same, or
Right.
this doesn't drive me as much as it used to, you could start
Right.
seeing, hey, you know what? I can do some other things in my life.
Mhm.
Madison is
Right.
engaging, she's knowledgeable, like, because she easily transitioned into a television career if that's something she wants.
True.
Absolutely. I'm just gonna enjoy the time probably the
Right.
next
The
2
time
years or
we have.
so
Right.
that we've got left.
Yeah.
Exactly, but whether or not do I think she's gonna be a top 5 player? I don't expect anything north of 5 or anything south of 20, to be honest with you.
Sure.
Like, this
Sure.
is I feel really good about put her in at 15, and if she pops a semi of a Grand Slam, there's your top 10. Like,
Right.
that's where I
Yeah.
sit with
I think it's
Madison
well
Keys.
said, and it's a good perspective to take on her. When you look at her as that versus a comparing her to from the top 10 down, looking at it from top 20 up. I think it's a great perspective, and just a matter of where you put the lens. So I completely agree. Um, I, I I stand by what I said as well as far as the tactics of it. But
Yep,
with most points finishing within 4 shots, you only she's got 2 of the best ones. She's got 2 of the best to start 2 of the 4 with. So you know what I mean. If every poker hand started with a joker and a king, buddy, you'd be all right. You know what I mean. Now you just need a little bit of help. You know what I mean
bada
from the
bing.
deck. So
Exactly. Exactly. All right, so let's transition a bit here. So
Yeah,
we've gone kind of deep. I think we fully exhausted the top of the mountain. Which is
right.
just half of the top of the mountain is U.S. women. So it is
Pretty
what it
pretty
is.
good. Pretty good
Um,
too.
the yeah, we're blessed. The rest of them,
Yep.
the rest of them
The
between
rest of the rest.
Emma Navarro at between Emma Navarro at 15, and I'm gonna go ahead and cut us off at Haley Baptiste at 61. All
Okay.
right, and maybe we'll throw Peyton in there at 63.
Okay.
There is a when we look at this group of women, you and I were talking about this before we started recording, right? It feels like we're debating whether or not someone in this group can effectively, I'm going to sum this up here, effectively replace the Pegulas and the Keys
Mhm.
when these two ladies decide to call it a day at some point, right?
Sure.
Because now we're just talking about it's numbers, right? And that person's not going to be Sophia Kennan, right? Sophia Kennan, great year for her. She's ranked inside the top 30. She'll be seeded out there straight up, but she's 27 years old. And her best days, she was somehow winning Grand Slams. And yeah, that was awesome. That was great. But I don't think anyone believes that. No one wager that she's going to do it again.
Right.
Um, the game has changed.
Yep.
That was cool. But there are some other players here where I get a little worried. I'm going to say worried
Mm.
about where's our next, not necessarily our next Coco Gauff, but where is our next Jessup
JPEG.
Pegula,
Sure.
right?
Matt. Yep.
Yeah. Who is that player that's going to come in and be our, like, just move into that space and be our professionals of the group?
Yep.
We can start with Emma because Emma finished 2024 ranked 8, I believe it was, and then now it's 15 in 2025.
Yep.
Where do we level out with her?
It's a great question. I think she'd like to know the same answer. Well, maybe she'll tune in and find this out. Um, I'm going to
Don't
give you
revoke my
two.
Charleston press pass, please.
Right, 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 right. There are two ways of looking at this. Number one, for me, 15 is the new top 10. When you load
Hmm,
the top four with four different Grand Slam champs, it pushes the numbers down. A would-be
sure.
semis and a finalist will now become a quarter and a semi, right? Because if that same player had it, typically you have a huge disparity between 1 and 2, 2 slightly above 3, and 4 and 5 trickle on down from there. In this situation, you've got that point spread around across the top four. In some cases, there was even some different, and Amanda's case, it was two of the same semis, but um, Arena didn't even make all the finals this year, and she was the number one player in the world. So you got to appreciate how that affects the points themselves. So I would even dare say the top five, those points were spread amongst five players, which pushes effectively. It's like you have five number ones, is what I'm really trying to say. So that pushes the numbers themselves down. That's my first point I'd like to make. You can check me on the numbers. I think in concept, I think you might agree with me. Number two, I think she is the most professional out of all of them, probably taking a page more so out of a JPEG's book and as far as being that constant professional. At least she's heading down that road. I don't. She's been consistent her whole career, juniors, her time at UVA, as well as obviously her time on the tour. I feel she's had an unfortunate situation where this updraft, if you will, of top players has happened on her watch, and her game, I liken her game somewhere between Paolini and Iga, right? Her game just hasn't matched up as well to some of the bigger Amazonians that are out there playing, that are currently having their day. So I feel like she is that next player. I think she's there now. I think she has to retool a few things. I think she has to get some things a little bit, and kind of go back in and kind of get some upgrades. But she is going to be there, and I think she's that player you're talking about. Should that happen, and I think when it happens, I think she'll do it. I think she's too competitive. She's too professional not to. And she will want that more than anything else because she is a competitor and a champion at all levels up until this point in time. Nothing to me will signal anything otherwise. It's just a matter of of when she does it. And obviously, unfortunately, and not 15, as you know, Alvin, the numerically becomes an issue now with how soon you face one of those former Grand Slam champs from last year. So that will be the tricky part for her. But she's always been that kind of player that on a bad day she can beat anybody on a bad day. And so if those players aren't playing off the charts, they're I don't like I don't like their chances against a sharp Emma Navarro, even if they were a former Slam champ from this past year. So I feel like well, I don't see her getting inside the top 5. I certainly don't see her getting outside the top 20. And to your point earlier about Madison, if she could pop a semi, there's your top 10 back to match her 8 from a year or two ago.
Yeah. So okay, if I'm getting this right, then do you feel like her true level,
I
when
do.
you actually look at her game, right? Her
Right.
true level is probably not top 8, like
100%.
year in finals,
100%.
but better than 15. Is that
100%.
you're saying she's probably somewhere in between those two?
100%.
Huh.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm just not quite. I'm not quite ready to call it. I mean, honestly, call
Yeah.
it, right? She's 24 years old, so we're not
Right.
calling anything here. But um, what I don't believe is the 8. I think she caught a lot of people like by surprise, and like this is what
Sure.
you can do when you are mentally tough. You
Yep.
move well, right? She
Yep.
makes a lot of balls, which she was able to do in her first full year on tour in
Yep.
2024. Like, I think we talked about this middle of last year, this year, like her second year on tour, the book is out on her. People
Yep.
understand what they need to do,
Yep.
how to beat her. And so, but still finishes the year top 20. I always feel this way this time of year. Like I'm gonna turn my TV on in a couple weeks here, and
Mhm.
Australian Open is gonna be starting. I guess when you guys hear this, it'll be a couple days. Um, and I will have a very quick understanding of who Emma Navarro is now.
Right. Yep. Yep.
Has she
Agree.
added what she needs to add in order to actually push closer to that top 10 and show that she is
Correct.
a top 10 player? She's had some time off from the last. Wasn't in a year in finals, so she's had a nice chunk of
Yep.
time
That's
off.
great. Sure.
Which yeah, 6 weeks in tennis years is like an eternity. You can be a different player
100%.
in 6 weeks.
Yeah. Yep.
So I'm excited to see where she goes. I look at her kind of like her and Dina Schneider are kind of like similar, like first year on tour, like played some college tennis, now first year on tour,
Yep.
bam, surprises a lot of people, pops top 10, and then second year it's like, whoa, what the heck's going on here?
Yeah.
Steadying the ship a little bit.
Yep. Yep.
And this is I think a big year for Emma and
Yep.
us as US tennis. Like, what do we
Yep.
got? Like,
Yep. I agree.
what do we got?
I felt 8 was a bit
Okay.
high for what her game style was, right? We're talking about a player that needs to grind, needs to match up, needs a rally or two. She's not the type that's good. She's not a Madison, right? She's not 6 feet tall and has a 128-mile-an-hour serve and a 95, 96-mile-an-hour forehand. So at that point in time, you're a different player, right? So I think it's when you have that kind of a record and you are not bringing those kind of, weapons, I think it's important to understand, then that's, it's a very similar situation. I'll use a weird analogy because I'm a Chiefs fan. My Kansas City Chiefs won 10 games or so the year before when we got to the Super Bowl, Alvin, by one score.
Uh-huh.
We had 10, it might have been more than that. The Chiefs fans out there will probably remind me. 10 games, less than one score. Guess how many games we lost this season by one score? 10 games. So I said to say,
10 games. Yeah.
one year we lose in the finals of Super Bowl, and one year we don't even make the Super Bowl. So I say it to say that's just the difference of the tail of the tape when you're at that razor's edge in your game style. And that's my analogy for Emma is she's going to come out on the other side of that same close match, as she was on that previous match. To only go as low as 15 still bodes pretty well for a player who had an injury or two and wasn't 100% playing the best of her game, who was coming off some of those points to defend. So I actually look forward to her having a decent year. I say decent, in going deep in a few slam draws. She's always that type of player that's going to make up some room in the 1000s and terms elsewhere. She's pretty mobile, so she can play well on all surfaces. I don't feel like I certainly don't feel like she is a threat to win a slam, certainly with this current group especially, but I also don't see her being fodder, for the top 8 seeds either. Clearly, the top 4 can go through her, but she still has a chance to beat them on their bad day, and that chance only exponentially gets better as the players don't have the same level of weapons. So that's why I feel like she is that JPEG-ish type litmus test for the Pro Tour. And while she's more Iga/Paolini in style, I feel like she's right there and will certainly be a threat to be reckoned with on anybody's day. And I feel there's a lot of players like her that have that level of, hey, I can, if everything goes according to plan, what I mean, I'm right there with about 90% of the players I'll face, and I like that. I like those odds.
Yeah, and she's shown her ability, like, she's been on tour 3 years, right?
Yep.
And in the last 2 years, she's made quarterfinals or better in 3 of the 8 Grand
Right.
Slams, right? So she's shown the ability to get there, and at different Grand Slams, mind you,
Different
right?
slams.
She
Right.
courted Australian Open this year.
Yep.
Year prior, she courted Wimbledon and semifinal of
Yep.
the US Open. So
Right.
I think when you start looking at, like, her ability to get there, meaning, like,
Right.
you show me you can put it together over 2 weeks and start to push into the last 8, um, we swap, Roland Garros this year. I think she lost in the first round, right? So we
Yep.
swapped that first round loss with just a second or third round, even
Right.
better. She's right
Right.
back in the top 10. So, like,
That's
it's
it.
we're not far off here. Like,
No.
we're not
No.
far off considering she didn't really do that well at the other Grand Slams this year.
Yep.
She was still right there. That kind of
Yep.
shows you between slams, it can be a match or two
Yep.
that really moves that ranking, 5, 7
That's right.
spots, but in the tournaments in between, she's still performing at a professional's level, and I think that is a good sign. So we reshuffle the deck, and we hopefully come up with, one more face card this year, and we're probably okay. Um, okay,
Before
so
you,
but
as
the
you
rest of them,
segue, as you
I
segue,
call it the rest.
right. Here's my gauntlet that I'm throwing down for the remaining players we discussed. Emma got to top 10 within about a year to 18 months post college. Some of the other players that are a little further on our depth chart have not gotten top 20 inside of the same time frame. Some of them, that might be a career high if they ever do it. And so I just want a little perspective to understand how hard what she's done is. And do I see the rest of them getting to top 20 this year, which would be their second, third, give or take year, right? She did it top 10 level and is kind of as sifted or settled at 15, which I think is a very respectable number, especially considering as I said, the top. But I'm worried. The more we talk about this, the more I'm worried about some of the ones, and you'll mention it. I just wanted to mention that as a segue into the rest because they have not reached that high of a level in their year or two on tour to date.
Yeah, let's do this. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll come
Yep.
back and we'll dig into that one. Okay, we're back. And so, Tori, I think you left us with a really, really good point, and I think it helps to kind of tell the story of how we look at professional tennis players. Like,
Yep.
let's say the obvious part first. If you are someone we see play tennis on television, you are one of the best in the world. In the world. Amazing tennis player. Check, right? If you are playing at Grand Slams, if you are winning a round at a Grand Slam, right? You are at a level of tennis player that 99 point literally 999% of us aspire to be, right? So
On our best day.
on our best dreams, right?
Right.
Okay. So, there are levels to this, right? So as we move away from the things the expectations that we set for the Coco Gauffs and Amanda Anisimova's, Pegulas, and all the way down to Madison Keys, right? Like, winning Grand Slams and competing for Grand Slams, when we're talking about the last 4 players in a Grand Slam, there I don't know how many billion people are on the world. It's the rest of them
Right.
and then these 4, right? It's
Right.
it's it's stratosphere is different.
Right.
But within this world of top 100
Right.
tennis players, right? Everyone's trying to make a living.
Yep.
Some are chasing glory, some are chasing the record books.
Right.
Others are trying to maximize the amount of time that they have in their career in the space in which they will make the majority of their money in their
Right.
in their professional career. Like if you were a tennis player between, 50 and 70 in the world, there's a pretty good chance that the money you make while playing tennis is going to be the most money you're going to make. Like this is your profession and you have a very small window to do it.
Sure.
Okay. So that's the job.
Yep.
That is the job of it, right? So when we start talking about these players from McCartney Kessler all the way down to Peyton Stearns, right? Where the conversation we're having is, okay, we know how good you are to
Yeah.
have gotten to this conversation. There are
Yep.
players we will not talk about, right?
Right.
Because they are not in this conversation.
Thank you.
But with these players in this 30 to kind of 60 space, I think the question that we're both asking is, do we have our next set of top 10 players, US players, in this group? And the part that I'm worried about, and it's kind of the same thing I said, we talked about in the men's US review,
Yep.
is that it don't look like it. It don't look
100%.
like it. And I'll let you go on with your point that you made before the break about Emma Navarro, first 2 years, she got there.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this with other players and previously. Like,
Right.
if you're gonna win a Grand Slam, it's probably a chance that you're gonna do it before, like, kind of in history, like, before the age of 21, right?
Yep.
So, like, if you're good, if you're that good,
Right.
you're gonna show it early.
Yep.
You're gonna show something early. You might
Yep.
not stick there, but you will show something early
Yep.
within your first 24 months on tour
Yep.
that make us go, all right.
I,
Like
I
Amanda Anisimova today,
right.
she showed it before she took her break, right? When she was
100%.
younger, she showed it.
100%.
Pegula is the outlier.
I
Okay.
would say so. And I would
Yeah.
also say that and I would add to that. And I would say that while she's the outlier, she did continue to make incremental improvements all the way through. Jessica did not go from 250 to 10, right? Jessica was always pretty good, just not Grand Slam final good. And I say that to say even her ascent to top 50, to top 20, top 30 was always there. There was a young Coco Gauff that was kind of her, that she was a big sister to and played some doubles with early on
Right.
when Coco was first getting started. So she was the top 10, if you would, player at that time, or certainly just outside the top 10 at that point, trying to sniff to get inside the top 5, right? And as she's continued to incrementally move her needle in the last 3 or 4 years. So, but she was there, is what I'm getting at. And I think I don't see, besides Emma, I don't see a lot of, there's not another Jessica Pegula coming up behind her that I see. And I wish there were another. I want to say this, Alvin, and I think this is something that all tennis fans need to kind of appreciate. We talked this before. I talk about the Nike contract. I was privy to get some, some things, some understanding, but and days gone by when players were having these deals. And so I was telling you, if a player has this 5-year $1 million contract deal, it typically looks like a, 5 different, $200,000 deals based on with a lot of bonuses and things laced in.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's reportedly worth $1 million, but for lack of a better term, let's just call it even money. Let's say a $5 million 5-year deal, $1 million per year. You hit these benchmarks, right? The first benchmark is almost always 250 in the first year, right? The second one is almost always top 100. The next one's top 50. The next one's top 20. The next one's top 10. And if you have high enough perks, obviously there's bonuses to get to number 1. Most players don't reach past the year 3 benchmark. They just don't make that next cut in said time. If they do, that's great. Almost none make the year 4 benchmark, and so on and so on. And obviously top 10 is, there are those that do. And they're the ones we talk about. They're the ones who sell a lot of rackets, t-shirts, and clothing line and makeup and whatever else they're a spokesperson for in the commercial world. Taking that level, and I don't know specifically how long Peyton, McCartney, and others who are there, how long, but I got to think it's within about 2+ years, maybe a bit more than that. But that worries me in the sense that Emma got to her top 10 status in about 18 months. And I'm looking at now as she's leveling out down, as you said, down to 15, give or take, she still had a pretty high ceiling to come down from. Some of these players have yet to reach that top 20 mark. And I'm worried that if, you know, while they have a lot upside still to go, it just makes me question, is the upside high enough? And you can do this across the men's or the women's tour. It doesn't matter. The answer is still the same. How quickly do they ascend to the top? And at what point do they level out? If I'm getting top 5 and I level out to top 8, great. That's about where I'm at. Right? If I get to top 10, I level out at 15, 18. Okay. If I level out to 25, if I get to 25 and I level out at 30, that's there's not a chance of me getting to 10, right? With all foreseeable things being the same. And I think that's the issue that I'm now, and the challenge that I'm issuing to our next set of American players coming up. There really needs to be a game development bent on making that mark, not necessarily getting a little bit better, but getting substantially better at a couple of parts of the game, whatever they may be. And this goes for the Peytons, the McCartneys on the women's side, all the way over to the Alex Mickelsons, the Marcus Jerones, and so on and so on the men's side. Which I don't want to blend the topics here, but it's the same concept. If you're going to be relevant, you need to make some significant adjustments. I like that word better than changes. Adjustments to what you're doing now, because your clock is ticking, Alvin. Let's be honest. Because at some point, if you do what you've always done, you're going to get what you've always gotten.
Yeah, and I think that's well said. One, two. I want to make sure that I'm not jumping to conclusions here, right?
Yeah, no, for sure.
As much as I say that Jessica Pegula is a bit of an outlier, she's an outlier only in terms of when she started to make the jump.
Right.
Right. So Jessica now at age 31 is a top 10 player. She's been a top 10 player since she was 28 years old. Right.
Right.
And I'm going to, not to bore you with the numbers, but I'm going to go through them a little bit here. Right. So when she was 24, she was ranked 125 in the world.
Yep.
Right. That's when you look at Peyton Stearns ranked 63 in the world at age 24. Right. So
Yep.
like you would say that, okay, if Jessica ended up at 3, 7 years later, then maybe Peyton could do it too. But there are some jumps that do need to happen. So JPEG went from 125 to 76 to 62. So 62 at age 26 feels like leveling out. And then boom, she makes the jump from 62 to 18 in 2021 at the age of 27. And then has steadily gone from 18 and then 3, 5, 7, 6, right? So it just happened later, but making that big jump has to happen. I think all the ladies that we're talking about have made that big jump. McCartney Kessler being one of them. Like McCartney, she's 26 years old, right? So if you put her kind of where JPEG was, like 26, she's 31 in the world. 2 years ago, she was 230 in the world.
Yeah.
So she went from 230 to 68 to 31. Okay.
Yeah.
Now the question is, has the way the women's game changed over the last few years mean that McCartney Kessler over the next 2 years is actually in a perfect position, next 4 years is in a perfect position to make a run for the top 10? Like, is this a top 10 player in waiting and I just don't see it?
Yep.
Or I'm not, or like the question is like, what is the new norm? Is the norm still the Coco Gauffs who pop early and stay there, like we talked about?
Yeah.
Or is the Jessica Pegula route actually
The norm.
more likely?
Yeah. I would certainly say, right, split the difference, obviously. And I love Peyton and McCartney both, by the way, for the level of play. Couldn't have a bigger serve. You couldn't have a bigger serve big four than Peyton, and McCartney is to me as about as savvy and a strong competitor as we put out. Again, both top college players coming out. Age isn't the bigger issue to me in terms of more so it is time on tour. We talked about
Time
this
on
before,
tour, yeah.
right? It's all about time on tour. It's been 2 years, right? I think my only concern, and I mentioned this, and I stand by this, even with the other players, Jessica included, are you making significant adjustments to the game to continue to go forward? Because to me, it isn't the number, it's the upside that we see within the numbers. I'm looking more at the player, I'm looking more at the game, the matchups. Do I see that player improving? Do I see that player getting better? Even if you have a tough loss, hey, you might come up against Serena in a weird in the second round. Well, that's going to be a tough draw. We can't.
Yep.
You're not gonna beat Serena first time out playing her in a slam. But she's too good at that level. She's been there too many times. She has too many ways to beat you. You have too many ways to lose. However, through the course of that year, right? Do I see you sneaking through a semi or a final of a 1,000? Do I see you winning a 500? And that's where I'm saying what I like to see both these players have that ability to just incrementally get better. Do I see you taking a set off of Arena or Amanda
Right.
or Iga? That's more what I'm looking for, Alvin, not even necessarily on the numbers. It just so happens that the numbers speak to themselves a year later. And if you were to tell me a year from now that Peyton would be top 20, 18, give or take, right, in the world. Do I see that happening? I do see that happening. I think she's that good of a player to make that happen. I I would like to see that sooner than later is all. Because I think the longer it may take, it tells you that it's not as possible, or I should say not as likely. It's always possible, just not as likely. And I think that's where she's at. This will be her third year on tour. I'm not looking for her to win a slam. I'm not looking for her to beat a number one player. I'm looking for her to compete with the top player. And I'm looking for her to have to both hold that serve, shore up that, do a little less running around and smacking forehands and to take away some time and add another dimension to her game that would improve that would really suit and really be a difference maker against some of these other matchups with girls that can take her pace, return her serve, because at that level, they all got good returns. You know what I mean? They all can have a decent serve, but those that don't have great serves have phenomenal returns. And so that becomes their new weapon. So I think I want to make sure while I'm throwing down the gauntlet's a challenge. It's not a death knell. It is just that. It's a challenge for Peyton, obviously, and then for McCartney to even Haley Baptiste, to get to that next level of their game, that next wrinkle that lets them be competitive with those with that 20 through 50 player that is really good, and to make that happen. So I do want to add in one player. Don't let me forget before we, as you know, you want to bring up McCartney.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I don't want to kind of put them all in the same bundle because there are some nuances between your McCartney Kesslers and your Ashlyn Krugers and your Peyton
Right,
Stearns, right? And one of them being like, I'm going to keep harping on age because age and time on tour are sometimes correlated, but we have a lot of these ex-college players, right? Like Ashlyn Krueger, for instance, has been on tour for 3 years,
right,
right? She's 21 years old,
right.
right? So there's a lot of like no college experience. There's a lot of like growth that is still happening,
Sure,
like from a maturity
sure,
standpoint.
sure.
But at when you look at not just the ranking of, top 50 player in the age of 21, just finished her third year on tour. She's also 6 foot tall with a howitzer force serve, right?
Yep.
Huge forehand. Actually moves pretty well for her size.
Yeah, yeah,
Like at this point, we've got a good lump of clay here, and it's just like we're still sculpting it, right?
for
That's
sure.
and so while still sculpting, we're not even in the oven yet. Like
Right.
at that point in the process to be putting up enough results to get ourselves into the top 50, right? I think something like that, a player like that projects to, okay, I think she can probably get to top 20.
No, yeah.
Actually, I'm
If
I'm I'm fairly
if
certain
if
she can
if
get to
not
top
higher,
20.
right? If
Right.
not higher,
She
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 reminds me of Jim Brady. You know what I mean? With the big with her serve and forehand prowess. So, and again, being young enough. Again, I was speaking more to our college, our 2, 3, 4 year college players that came out have been out there.
Yeah.
As
Yeah,
with
yeah.
McCartney and Peyton.
Yeah, so, like but then you look at Peyton, right? So, Peyton, 24 years old, right outside right around 60 in the world, but she's kind of been there since she got on tour. That's the problem, like, when you see someone like Ashlyn, who did not go to college, right? She came out 81, 65, 45. Boom, we're jumping 20 spots every year. That's like you see half it every year. Half it every year means you're trying to move towards the top 10 pretty quickly, but
Sure.
jumping 20 spots every year, okay, I'll take that.
Yep.
Right. Kind of in that same timeline, that same space of time, but someone who played in college, Peyton Stearns, right? 50, 53 her first year out, and then 48, and now 63. Like we're kind of like, whoa, that's actually a
Right.
little worrisome
Trending
because
trending the wrong way. Yeah.
we're just kind of sitting here.
Yeah.
You're effectively showing me that you're the same player now that you were 2 years ago when you first came on tour, and that is, as someone who's a Peyton Stearns fan,
Sure.
that is a little worrisome. So it's like,
Yep.
okay, well, what is Peyton gonna do this year
Right.
to not necessarily define the rest of her career, but really just kind of show me, like, what kind of player am I gonna be? And right, and that is the difference between like when we talked about JPEG and her path, like even though she started a little bit later making those moves, she started making them, right?
Right.
Like 125, 76, 62, 18, top 10. Like
Right.
that is progress. I don't care when you do it. I don't care if it's
Yeah.
age 18 to 22. I don't care if it's age 26 to 30. Like
Yeah.
that's getting while the getting's
Getting
good,
it done.
right?
Yeah.
Get it done. Get
Yeah.
it done. So that's kind of and then McCartney, like again, started a little bit later, but 2 years ago she was 230 in the world, 68, 31. Okay. Now we're in that JPEG space, right? JPEG at age 26 was 62 in the world. McCartney's 31. Okay. Show me.
Yeah.
I'll give you time.
Yep.
You to this point, I can't fault you for when you start.
Yep.
But when you do start and you start showing me things,
Yep.
okay, let's see what you got. So I'll
Yep.
I'll 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 give McCartney, if I'm swapping players here, I'll give I'll give her the JPEG hat maybe.
Sure.
Like
Fair.
go wear that hat. I'll give Ashlyn Krueger maybe the Madison Keys hat because
Right.
they similar game style. Like
Yep.
when she
Yep.
gets there, like I mean, could she get to top 20 this year and then be there for the next 10 years?
Right.
When you have those tools, sure,
Yep.
sure, why not? The ones that jump out at me for for a good reason and a bad reason. Peyton, I'm I'm like 6 months away from being a little worried.
Yep.
As like we get through French Open, another Australian and French Open, and she wins 1 or 0 matches in those slams,
Yeah.
and I'm like, okay, well then it is what it is.
Right.
Fine.
And
Um,
right. 2026 will show you that, won't it? You remember Jim Brady, though. I mentioned her earlier. You remember
oh
Jim
sure,
Brady,
yeah, that was
right?
a fun time.
Oh, great time. And she was also that player, again, tall player, big forehand, big serve. And I remember it took her a little bit to kind of get going, but she shot up very quickly toward the end. I say toward the end when she was playing.
She got hurt, end of her career. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I bring her up for one reason because Peyton to me is very similar.
Yep.
Have weapons, will jump, right? So with weapons, we can still take a meteoric rise if the sun, the moon, and stars start to align just right. And that's why I wanted to make the comparison is that I don't even think Jen Brady played one for UCLA when she first went out, first she came off. Was in college. I think Stella Sampras, in her wisdom, said, "Let's get you playing a little lower and get some wins and really develop your game. If you don't want to change your game, which is fine, let's put you where you can win and then gradually let you improve." And I think toward the end, she was playing lights out. Of course, did she get to the final of the Open? I want to say, when they're back in,
She had a really good 6 months. So like end of
uh,
2020, she semifinaled the US Open and then
that's what it was, semis.
came back Australian Open the very like 2021 and finaled it and
That's what it
lost
was.
to
I thought,
Osaka.
and now
Yeah.
right, right during or right near end of COVID or right COVID was starting, whatever that situation was. But I,
And yeah, but yeah.
but I said to say, I remember her at that point in time where she was just starting to blitzkrieg people. I was like, wow.
Oh yeah. Oh
Right. And
yeah.
it was so fun to watch. And I say that to say, because we were talking again as a coach, I love that because it just shows you the game development and how it takes those harder hitting, bigger players, taller players, more aggressive players. It takes them a little longer, right? They got to learn how to use those weapons and how to rein them in. And that's what I'm thinking. I'm gonna give that hat, if you will, to the Peyton Stearns player because type of player, but her in particular, because I feel like there's still the ability for her to get that going. And you don't know how much momentum and confidence is being lost by not winning, but you don't appreciate how, without changing much, you just have the win and the confidence that comes from it, and you could have a little bit of meteoric rise. And I think that's the flip side of the Emma Navarro type situation is with weapon, will rise, you can still add that level to your game, and it won't take much, but you landing some of those bigger shots. And if your game style is much different, you really are going to have to spread out your results throughout the course of a year because you're not going to be going through players at will per se.
Yeah, and it's, interesting not to get off course with Jen Brady though, but, like, it's like, what did it cost her? It's like everything.
Right, right,
Because she,
right.
like she was I mean, outside of that, like, she lost first or second round at every Grand Slam for 2 years leading up to that semifinal
Yep,
run at the US Open, save for actually 2017, she had a pretty good year, round of 16 twice, at the US Open and the Australian Open, but you know, when she put it all together for those 6 months,
yeah. Well, it was beautiful.
semifinal US Open, final Australian Open, and
Yeah,
then round of 32 at French Open, and she ain't played a slam set. It's like, US Open a couple years back, but,
yeah,
it just got hurt. It really it just it with that's such high I mean, the 2 game styles are like could not be more synonymous, like heavy spin,
yep,
it's out there swinging like Rafa,
yep.
like just it takes a toll on the
The
body, on
body, it
anyone's
does.
body,
Right,
and that's probably the reason we don't see a lot of the women playing in that same style. But
right.
yeah, shouts to Jim Brady. But yeah, that's kind of where I see. Yeah, I think Jen and Peyton is that's a really really good comp. So
Yep.
um, now's the time. One player I
Uh,
want to make sure we don't like one player who's the opposite end of Peyton Stearns, more of the Amanda Anisimova pedigree
mhm.
is Eva Jovovich,
Okay.
right?
Yeah,
Eva Jovovich, 18 years old, currently ranked 35 in the world, right? And these are obviously these are numbers that you like to see, right? Young, already in the top 40. That's fantastic. But some other things about Eva that make you go, okay, this is something to keep I feel the same way about her like when we talked about the men, Ethan Quinn, when you go, huh,
yeah,
huh, things are happening here. But even probably at a more extreme level in that Eva won a 500 this year. She won a tournament on the Pro Tour when she started the year off playing challengers effectively, right? She won girls USTA hard courts 18s
mhm.
2 years ago. Got the wild card on the into the US Open and won a round. Like
Yep,
that's big. Junior Orange Bowl, like I think she finished like under 14 Orange Bowl, she won it. She won Junior Australian Open and Junior Wimbledon in doubles, right?
yep,
So when we start to talk about pedigree, right? This is a woman, a girl, woman who is
yep,
showing up on the pro tour. Like I have a expectation of winning at a
yep,
high international level,
yep,
right? And has come on the tour and already got a win at a
yep,
500. Like that's not a joke, right?
yep,
So if we take that and you look at such a young age, you start going, mm-hmm, okay, give me another year like that,
right.
right? I'd like to see you like if we're gonna start, let's start top 40. Cool, let's
Yep,
do that.
yep,
Let's not start at 300 in the world. Let's
right.
just show up and getting to work. And if like
Yep,
we said, if within your first 2 years you can show up and start getting to work, that gives me a lot of hope for okay, maybe this is the one that
yeah,
points towards top 10.
yep, yep. I
It's
just haven't seen
still a
enough
little
of her yet. But I'm
right.
100% with you on the trending of it. You know, there's you got to always not worry about, be on the lookout for that sophomore slump. You know, a good player doesn't really have one. And when I say let me clarify that. A great player rarely has a sophomore slump in the sense of, gets into the top 20 and then drops back off and doesn't necessarily, you know, uh, equal or best or better that previous result. And
Mhm.
but good players that have from time to time. I'm looking forward to this young lady. I've been, of course, you're hearing all the buzz about her, and she's hit and she's playing very well right now. I like the fact that she, much like a Yao Fonseca type, is kind of coming under the radar. I like what she's done up to this point. I'd like to see her now. This is that point in the next year or so when you have to start having a decent result. And by that, I mean a close match with some of the top 10 to prove that you can beat or be with that level. And so this will be a great year for me to see that. I'm going to reserve any comment or judgment until I see more of that. She's young. She's swinging free. She's got a lot of confidence right now. Of course, she's going to do well against some players who haven't seen her before. And Alvin, you know this to be true. The best weapon a young player like her has is there's no book out on her yet, right? So
Mhm.
no one even knows how she plays, how her ball, what her ball's like. There's no scouting report. She's brand new. So, some of that, and that's not taking anything away from her. It's just to say some of that is just a blitzkrieg of wow, girl's good. It's a nice ball. And then that comes up to that you now um, that medal is now clashed with some other just as strong a medal players that did that themselves back years ago. And now you start to see where she kind of starts to level out at. So we'll see, and that's why I'm excited to see it. I want to make sure that she has that level of exposure to me before I can really see the numbers. Right now are just what they are, the numbers. But I'd love to see her continue with the other players. Again, different weight, different track. Much different track.
Yeah.
They play college,
I mean,
and we'll see.
she spent the majority of the year playing both, like on the 125s and belows, and then
Right.
also playing some masters and some
Sure.
on the
Great,
senior
great
tour, if you
schedule.
will.
Great schedule for young players.
Yeah, this will be her first year of like she will not be playing any more 125s likely. She's
Right.
probably going to be 500s,
Right.
masters, thousands at that ranking level. But there are kind of a few things that I saw that there are a few things that make me go, okay, this is why I'm actually interested, right? She did take a set off Jasmine Paolini in Miami, right?
Okay.
That's taking a set off a top 10 player, right? She beat Potapova this year. She
Mhm.
beat Lindenowskova this year.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Um, did win a 500. That's the other thing. And then here's my last point. Her parents, immigrants,
Mm,
one Serbian, one Croatian.
mm.
Mm,
That means
mm,
you got the old school, the old country in there. Yeah.
mm-hmm,
So she's
mm-hmm.
different cloth.
And not down the line,
Yeah.
mom and dad. Mom and dad. I think dad's Serbian, mom's Croatian. I might be flip-flopping that one, but like from the old world.
Yeah.
Um, they're not about that soft life.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you once told me many, many years ago, America's Next Champion will not come from a 3-car garage. My girl, her people have seen bullet casings. So
Yeah.
I feel we will come back to this
Yeah.
at this time
Yep.
next year, and hopefully a
Yep.
few times in between. You said you have one player you wanted to make sure we discuss before we get out of here.
Taylor Townsend.
Okay.
We
Okay.
have to we Alvin, we have to
Do
mention it.
we?
She's topping the world in doubles, and she had a good run at the
Okay.
Open. Alvin, you
Yep.
gotta
That's
you
true.
gotta at least include her. You gotta at least include her. I know her rankings outside. But Alvin, I just had to give a shout out to my girl Taylor Townsend and John Williams, her coach. I just had to say it for what it is. And it may be unlikely that she breaks inside the top 50 in singles per se, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. She showed the level. She is that in spades and dubs. And I feel like if it were to happen, it would be this next year, coming off a great year that she's had thus far in tennis, in singles. And I just wanted to make sure we gave her her due because she got deeper in some of the rounds at a slam than some of the players we've talked to heretofore. So I just wanted to make sure we gave her at the very least an honorable mention. And I for one would love to see her have another breakout tournament on the single side of things, as well as her continued dominance on the double side of things.
So yes, and I think the reason why I'm less bullish on the prospects of Taylor Townsend as a singles player. Not saying she doesn't have time. She's 29, right? There's a difference between 29 and 30, 31, 32, right? I just feel like she has never shown me the ability to get close to the top 50. Right? She's currently at like a buck 10, buck
Yep.
15 in the world, right? And whatever that number is whatever. But the thing that she was forced to do last year is the thing that she'll be forced to do this year, which is just a
Yep.
lot of qualifying, right?
Yep.
Now it's going to take her, if you're starting from round 1 of qualifying and you need to get to the round of 32 to be a top 50
Yeah.
player, that's a lot of
Yeah.
matches
Yeah.
just to get into the conversation, right? Now, granted, you only got to do it once, right? And she's done a good job of qualifying for events, specifically
Yeah.
of Grand Slams. Like last year, she was direct entry at the Australian Open. ranked around 85, right? But then, and this is the thing with Taylor, she can't win matches, like she can't win tour level main draw matches outside of U.S. soil. Like this is the issue. She was, direct entry in the Australian Open last year, right? Loses in the first round. Goes to Singapore, loses in the first round. Goes to Abu Dhabi, loses in the first round. Qatar, loses in the first round. Like qualifying, losing. And then we get to Miami, first round, she qualifies into Miami, wins 2 matches, right?
Yep.
And then loses to Zheng Qinwen, right? In round 32. That is okay. That should have been the okay, we're going now. We're going now. It was not.
Yeah.
Didn't qualify for Roland Garros, right?
Yep.
Lost in the first round of another 125. Losing the first round of Wimbledon after 3 qualifying matches. Like, there's just too much. Okay. Qualifies into DC, goes to the quarterfinals, loses to Layla. Fantastic. Wins 2 rounds first at Cincinnati, gets to the round 32. Okay, this is the player that we're looking for, but again, and then makes that run at the US Open. That's it. That's what this is. DC, Cincinnati, US Open is that should be the springboard for her, right? That should be the springboard. That's the thing. Like, okay, you've gotten a couple of wild cards, you qualified, and then you got a wild card, and you made good. Round of 32, then round of 16 of a slam. Cool. Yeah. And then we go right back into qualifying, because her ranking, because of the points just hadn't stacked up yet, and then didn't qualify for the next 250, right? And then hasn't played a tournament since. So it's like Taylor's just got to stack it all together, like, and that's easier said than done, because that is what a professional's career is. It's stacking it together over the course of 10 to 11 months.
Of 16 weeks.
Right. She just hasn't shown the ability to do that. And now here we are coming into the year outside of the top 100. Guess what we got to do in Australia?
Yeah, quality.
we got quality. For someone who has not shown the ability to win a lot of matches off of US soil, we ain't come back to the States for a while. Sunshine Double we're still 3 months out from that.
Right. Darn near 4. Right.
So how are we going to do it? How is this going to happen? I do not know.
Yeah.
Doubles player, as a doubles player, ain't none better, right? It's her and Sinyakova. It's almost unfair they get to play together, right?
Yeah.
But that's why I'm just a little. Hey, the U.S. Open was fun.
Oh God,
it was fun.
Oh,
it was fun.
I just loved seeing her style, which is unconventional, and just the artistry that she brings on the tennis with that left hand. Anyway, I've said my point. I mentioned her. Enough said. I will also say point taken.
I push, right? This is what I do. I push, but I'm gonna give her props. Like, taking advantage of the Ostapenko situation, second round US Open, she nailed it, right? I was in Ash when she took down Miriam Dreva the very next round.
Yeah.
Amazing. That match against Krejcikova in the round of 16, one of the best matches of the year. That second set tiebreaker was
that close. Yeah.
It was pure drama. Like, we're talking about, she was literally points away from being in the quarterfinals of a Grand Slam in singles. Like, missed the opportunity, but whatever. Babs has won 2 Grand Slams. Like, she had it, but Babs is like, I've got it, because I know what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
It's just if you don't capitalize on those opportunities, it's just tough sledding. Like,
I had to mention her. As always, you push back with a bevy of numbers.
I need to stop
and see all the depth charts you have on all the. I feel it's like Jarvis and Stark. Like, Jarvis, show me the last. The last 20 matches of. Exactly.
It's pretty close. Okay. Well, let's put a pin in it there. And I think the next time anyone sees us, it'll be Australian Open time, and we'll be taking a look at that draw. So, but until then, I'm Alvin. That's Torrey. Best 3. We're out.